What's up, everybody? Welcome back to System Crafters Live. I'm David Wilson, and we're back again with another Friday stream where we get together as a community and talk about whatever topic I've come up with for the week. And this week is no exception. And it's also been 4 weeks, I think, since we did the last stream. So sorry about that. Things were, we were on schedule as far as our vacation was concerned for 2 weeks. And then you come back from vacation and you're dealing with, 2 kids, and it kind of was a little bit hairy to sort of readjust from vacation. So took the extra week off, and then one of my relatives came into town, so we had to take them somewhere last weekend as well. So I don't know, we just had a lot of things we had to do, but we're back this week, and I'm really happy to be back. It's been kind of weird not streaming the last few weeks, but I hope all of you have been well. And today we're going to talk a little bit about Guile Scheme, because that's a general topic of my interest, or at least Scheme in general, but Guile specifically because it relates to GNU Guix, and also just being able to write practical applications in Scheme, at least on the GNU system and in Linux. Also, you can do that on Mac OS and somewhat on Windows, but mainly on Linux, I think. I'd like to say hello to the folks who have come so far, Thokal and Kiekenzut, sorry for that. I probably did not pronounce that correctly. Thanks very much for being here. So let's get into the updates. So first of all, nice to have another update on Crafted Emacs, where we hear about another new co-maintainer coming on board. And also there is an RC1 of Crafted Emacs 2 coming pretty soon, I think. Jeff Bowman's blog has some information about that. If you go check out write.as/Jeff Bowman, you can see some more details. But the bigger news is that we have another co-maintainer who is Stefan Thessing, who has been helping quite a lot on documentation on the Crafted Emacs project recently. Jeff started creating info files a while back for everything in Crafted Emacs so that you can access documentation from within Emacs. And Stefan has been doing a lot of work recently on fleshing out the documentation for the various crafted modules that we didn't really have documentation for, or really sufficient documentation for yet. So super happy to have Stefan aboard on the project, and thankful for the work he's been doing lately. Hello to fellow worker John and to Dave. Nice to see you. So yeah, check out Jeff's post. I've got it pulled up here. Basically just talks about some of the things that have changed more recently. So if you're using Crafted Emacs v2 beta currently, take a look at the latest changes so that you're sort of up to date on what's going to be coming soon there. The next thing is that the GNU project is reaching its 40th year anniversary, and that there is an event for this, apparently. I had seen this mentioned a few weeks back, but I forgot to talk about it on stream. So when is this happening? September 27th. And it's in Europe, this is in Switzerland, I think. Bielbiene. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Sorry, I just keep saying that. But anyway, point being, if you are in Europe, or if you like to visit Europe and you want to go celebrate 40 years of GNU, that's certainly an event you can go check out. I don't really know much about what's going on there, but I definitely see a few different people who are in the Free Software Foundation doing talks there, and it might be a pretty cool event. So give that a look if you're interested. Hello to Alejandro. Nice that you dropped by. Thanks a lot, man. So today, what I want to talk about is a tool that I have not really tried, but I've been hearing more and more about just here and there, and also sort of keep running across it myself, which is Guile Hall. And the point of this tool, Guile Hall, is to make it very easy to start up a new Guile Scheme project, whether it's a library or an executable, etc. The reason why this is necessary is because Guile is kind of a weird platform for developing programs and libraries. And I don't mean weird in the sense that like the language is weird. No, that the language is great and all the stuff that comes with the language and the runtime is great. The thing that's weird is how you build applications with it. Traditionally, there was not really like a package manager for Guile. There was another thing called Guile Hall in the past that might have done some things like that before Guix came along. And I think it also did some basic project creation, but typically Guile applications were always compiled using the typical GNU automake toolchain. And if you have ever looked at a Guile project, you're probably wondering why there's all this automake stuff in there. And that's mainly because, you know, it's a GNU project that fits in with the GNU ecosystem, the GNU tooling ecosystem, and automake is just one of the things that get used there. Typically, it's used for things like, if it's a strictly scheme project, it's used for things like inserting version numbers into like a file where the version is kept, so that can be accessible by the program, or basically stamping metadata files that go out with a distribution of the program, or even creating a distribution of a program, something that GNU Make can do for you. But point being, many Guile library projects or programs that you run into will have some of this GNU automake toolchain stuff in there, or autotools. I guess it's called autotools. So setting that up from scratch is kind of a headache. I've done it before by sort of copying and pasting things from other projects, but this tool, Guile Hall, will actually do a lot of stuff for you. And what's even better, it will also generate Guix package definitions, or even Guix local package definitions for development purposes, so that it's very easy for you to create a new Guile library or program project and then create the package definition for it, so that you can easily contribute that to Guix if you wanted to make a new library and have it be there in Guix so that other people can use it very easily. So I think this is a very nice tool for the Guile ecosystem, especially for people who are looking to contribute to the ecosystem by adding more libraries. And that's sort of why I'm doing this stream today. I want to show people how to create a new Guile library, so that if you have any idea for something, maybe you've tried some of the Guile libraries that exist already and you didn't find what you're looking for, but you're motivated to write something, maybe seeing how you can use this tool to set up your own project will inspire you to actually create that thing and get it submitted to the Guix repo. So we're going to refer to two resources for the purpose of this demonstration, I suppose, or the stream. And I'll start with a caveat. I have not actually used Guile Hall yet. I've looked at the repo. I know what it does. I've looked at these two links basically, but I'll be going completely fresh on this today as well. So we're going to see how fast we can get something off the ground with my basically zero knowledge of how to use Guile Hall itself. I obviously know how to set up a Guile scheme project, so at least we won't have to stumble on that stuff if anything goes wrong. But like I said, the first link is the actual link to the repository, which is hosted on GitLab. This project is by Alex Sassmanhausen, sorry, who is a contributor to Guix and to the Guile ecosystem. So you've probably seen his name around if you've been in that sphere. A lot of information here in the README, basically some getting started, command listings, which we might refer to in a moment. There's also a blog post by Red Nose Hacker. I believe that his name is Jeremy Corwin, if I can find it. Does he list his name here? I'm pretty sure it's Jeremy Corwin. Anyway, but he's also a contributor to the Guile and Guix ecosystem. So these are going to be our two references as we're going through this today. So first of all, let's talk about what we want to do with it, because I kind of like to use specific concrete projects to drive whatever thing I'm trying to learn. So the project that I want to work on today is a simple URL route handling library like you might see in a minimal web programming framework like Express.js or Flask, etc. We're not going to get very far with this. It's just sort of like for the purpose of demonstration. But the idea is that you have a set of routes that your web service or your web application expect, like let's say API / wow. Okay, let's just put this in a shell block. This is probably a bad idea. So API / thing ID / do something. URLs like this basically, but you need to be able to register all of these routes somehow using an API, and this API needs to be able to take an incoming request, or at least a string that represents the URL, and then match it against one of these routes to then dispatch that to a handler. So something that would be generally useful for someone who is writing a web service or a web application, as I mentioned. Let's just do this real quick. Just a couple of extra examples. Yeah, so lame examples, but this is basically it. Oh, what did I just do? Okay, hold on a second. Cool, making sure that I didn't kill the stream. My screen flashed. So let's see. Alejandro asks, so will we see more Ludum Dare and Guile? David says, like the game jam. Yes, I would love to do a game jam, but time is limited, and I'm trying to cut back on extraneous personal projects recently. So I would like to. I might do it. We'll see. I think there's another Ludum Dare coming up soon. In fact, just for my own. Let's see. Ludum Dare. Theo Peckley says, funny you didn't put Clojure's composure there. Well, the reason why I didn't is because I haven't used Clojure in a while, so I forgot about it. Dave says, Guile needs better Windows support to make it easy to play the games. That's true, for sure. September 29th is the next Ludum Dare. It's pretty soon. We'll see, maybe. I always get a little bit excited when I see those coming up. Dave says, but I will tease that I'm looking forward to web deployment. Yes. Bad scheduling. Well, it's just, having a 4-year-old and an infant now makes things a lot more complicated. Hey, Yele. Okay. So, like I said, the goal will be to produce a simple library with basic tests. Like, we're talking really basic tests. So, if you create a library project, it's good to have, obviously, your source code, but you also want to have unit tests. And I think Guile Hall can create the initial infrastructure for you for that. So we're going to add some basic tests. And then what we're going to do is try to consume that library from a simple Guile script inside of a Guix shell, which has that Guile library installed using the Guix package that the Guile Hall command will generate. So the idea is that we should be able to write a very basic library and then consume it from some other code using Guix after getting all this set up. So hopefully it works. We'll see what happens. All right. So let's take a look really quick at the creating a new project. Let me get myself into a folder where we can do this. Guix shell Guile-Hall. Excuse me. I already installed this before, so it didn't need to download anything. Now, it tells me that I need to go into a directory and then use Hall init, author, whatever name, and then the project name, and then execute. But before we use this execute, let's just see what it will do. So I'm going to jump into my projects folder, code, make dir, Guile routes. I don't know, terrible name. Guile routes, and then Hall init, author, and then Guile routes. I'm just gonna run it that way. Okay, so I think by default, many of the commands in Guile Hall, or let's call it Hall, because I think that's sort of the way that they call it. The command name is Hall. They don't actually execute what you ask it to do by default. It tells you a dry run, which means it just says what it would do instead of actually executing on that. And if you want it to really go through with the action that it tells you that it would do, then you can use this dash test execute, or I think it's even dash X to really execute the change. So let's see, Hall, well, let me just pull up the previous command. I'll do dash X at the end. And it's making all these files. Let me take a look here. Okay, so I didn't need that folder that I created. Let me just drop down, move Guile routes, blah. Move blah Guile routes here. Okay, so rm rf blah. Okay, so now we're in this folder. In fact, let me pull up dirred here. And let's take a look at what we have in here. So there's a README file that's symbolically linked to readme.org, which is kind of interesting. Not sure why that's the case, but maybe it's for different source forges that don't support org, then it will just pull up that README. There's an entry-level module, I think, for Guile routes, and then there's the Guile routes folder, which is going to have your actual module code. It doesn't have like a modules folder that you drop or source folder that you drop the module folder into. Apparently this is just like a top level thing, which I'm not sure how I feel about, just because you don't really want the Guile module system looking at other files in this folder, but maybe it's not a problem. I don't know. But anyway, it generates a doc folder with a .txt file, which is cool because it gives you an initial .info file that you can work on. And you have your initial section here. Why Guile routes? Well, that's a great question. I don't know. And then scripts, no scripts there, but generally you're going to want scripts for a project that has to run in CI, etc. There's a test folder, which doesn't really have anything yet, but we can populate that. The copying file has a GPL3 license in it. Hacking, oh, that's an org file, and it gives you, oh, cool. It gives some initial instructions so that you don't have to write those yourself, which is pretty common. In fact, it will tell you that you need to use, well, we should probably change this thing to say Guix shell instead, because Guix environment is old, but let's say deprecated. In the new shell, run Hall dist execute and auto reconf. That's where all that GNU magic comes in. Configure, then make check. So then you basically have your built project. I don't think all that's necessary for local dev, but maybe it is. We'll see. README has really nothing in it. The Guile routes top level module doesn't have anything in it yet. So really you just have a blank project. There's also a geeks.scm file, which is what's going to be used for local dev. If you've never seen one of these before, where's the source? Huh. That's interesting. Normally you would see like a local directory under source, but this is looking at a tarball. So I wonder if it expects that you're supposed to like make dist first to get the tarball and then use Guix to do that. Well, I suppose I should just look at the hacking instructions, right? Let's see what happens. Maybe I can just try these steps. So Guix shell, geeks.scm. We're gonna pull up vterm here. So Guix shell, what is it? df, geeks.scm. All right, and that command was Guix shell, wow, -D. Am I in a nested Guix shell right now? If I am, that's gonna be a headache. Let me try this. I think I'm in a nested Guix shell. Let's try this. Okay, so we should be able to use Hall, right? Good, Hall dist -x, I'm gonna say. Yeah, okay, I see that now. So Hall dist -x, which is going to create that tarball, I think. And auto reconf -vif and configure and make check. This is probably going to fail because a lot of these files are not skipping geeks.scm. Configure.ac or configure.in is required. Now, why isn't it already set up? All right, let's go back to this startup stuff. Hall scan, okay. So probably we need to scan. So let's check this out. Scan -- help. What does Hall scan do? So Hall scan, show a new Hall.scm file that would be generated by this command. There's a Hall.scm file. Okay, so there's a, is that here? Okay, Hall.scm. So let's talk about this for a second. Hall.scm, we didn't look at this before. This is a special file, which is probably a syntax that describes this project. So the project name, version, author, copyright, license is kind of like a Guix package definition, but it's specific for building this project locally, I guess. Also the files that are involved, and I think this is what Hall scan is supposed to do. It's supposed to automatically detect scheme files that could show up in the project and add them to this file. So it can automatically manage this file for you. So even test files or script files, etc. I suppose you don't need to use Hall scan. If you want to, you could go add them manually yourself, but I suppose maybe you'd want to just have it be automated so you don't have to tweak it too much. Documentation files, infrastructure files, all of this is probably going into packaging things in a way that is easily consumable by, you know, other GNU projects or by Guix. Alejandro says, is anything like that for Emacs Lisp? Yeah, there's a Emacs Lisp Cask project management tool for Emacs. I've never used it before, but it's there. And it will help you manage an Emacs Lisp project. But like I said, I've never used it. There's another one too that I can't remember the name at the moment. But anyway, give that a shot if you want something like that. All right, so add other Guile dependencies. Now I'm curious what that looks like, because there's a list of dependencies here, but there's no queue as to how you add dependencies. But maybe this repo has examples. Do you have examples? Examples. All right. See the manual for the most up-to-date and exhaustive documentation. So let's go to info mode. Am I going to find this? Hall? Nope. Of course not. That's going to be one problem. You're not being able to get this into Emacs because I'm using it from Guix shell. So can I just go look at the texie file? Dependencies. Okay. Hold your Guile project's dependencies, any other Guile modules that your project depends on. Can I make this dark? This is going to kill all of our eyes if we're looking at this in light mode the whole time. You know, I need to find the source. Let's see. Let's do this another way. GNU store Hall 041, sure. No. Info. So can I? Oh, nice. Okay, cool. So I can just open the info file.gz here. That works. Okay. Hall specification. Dependencies. All right. Now we can see what this looks like. Hold your project's Guile dependencies to the other Guile modules that your project depends on. Is primarily used when generating Guix recipes. So probably this is going to be looking for Guix package names. Format of the field is at the heart of the same one used by Guix dependencies field. So label, I don't know what that means. Library configure test is an optional Guile module specification, which when present is used at the configure time to ensure the dependency is present on the system. Okay, so basically just checks that this module exists. So yeah, at configure time, it will try to check for that module. And then Guix package name is the name of the Guile dependency in Guix. Interesting. And that's a back quote. So are we pulling this in from actual Guix modules? Because it looks like it. Guix package name. Well, it's not a name, it's a symbol that's being evaluated. So it must be the real package, right? I could be wrong about that. All right. Anyway, that was just out of my own curiosity. So first of all, let's just try to get this thing building. And I guess the best way to do that will be to try and create a file. Let's see. Guile routes. Let's just go straight into Guile routes ISCM. So define module. Guile routes. Don't really need any imports yet, I don't think. Define public. Copilot. let's see. Trying to think of how I want to structure this API. This could be a syntax, but let's not go that far right now. So, and I'll just, let's see, let's just return false to start with, and then routes. I'm just going to give a little example of how this might look in practice. I mean, it would be much better if it was a syntax. I don't know if I want to go that far right now. Let's see. Let's just go with a list. Just plain old a list, just for the sake of getting it done. I probably also want to have verbs as well. I know this is terrible, but write the non-syntax form first and add the sugar later. Yeah, exactly. Because, you know, we still need to understand what the core functionality should look like before we can make it look pretty. So it's not great. A lot of these routing systems want to have like some kind of app object that you keep calling into. I don't really like that so much. I would rather just have like this thing return a function that can do the evaluation. Yeah. Guix published had a bit of routing code in it that uses ICE9 match. Thanks, Dave. Yeah, I was going to use ICE9 match just to do the parsing of the variables and whatnot. We're not going to go too far with this. API things thing ID. We would also need a function, so define get thing handler. I don't know, dude. Request. And this needs to be a like that. Okay, so that's ugly, but whatever. We can live with it for now. And it's not exactly an A list either, but it doesn't really need to be one because we have more information. Okay. Whoops. And we'll put another thing here, like a post to create one. Obviously, this code doesn't go in this project. I'm just sort of sketching it out a little bit so that we can see what the shape of things will look like. Dave says HTTP endpoint routing is just a special purpose pattern matcher. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And it's better if you can boil it down to like a match expression, if you could. I guess you can, because you can use predicate functions, right? So we have a routes function that doesn't really do anything. And I mean, really in the end, what we would do is return a lambda. And what's the, let's see, Guile, not use string templating, embrace the S expressions. That's a good point. What would that look like? I mean, I suppose what you're basically saying is API things. What would you say would be a syntax for identifying a variable thing ID? I don't know. Is that too hacky? Hey, Judy. I don't know if that's what we want to do. We can think about that later. Right now, let's just get something building and working because I'm a little worried. Info. Well, if I use info, it's going to kill my other info buffer, isn't it? Or unless you use like a info file name. Okay, cool. So Guile web server. The web server API in Guile is pretty nice. Fairly straightforward, in my opinion. Actually, I don't really want to couple this. I see. I gotcha. Don't worry, it's all good. I derail myself a million times a day, so It's just part of the process. Okay, so there is handle request. Run server, handler. Okay, so handler should be a procedure that takes 2 or more arguments, the HTTP request and request body, and returns 2 or more values. So the first is the request object, the second is the request body. Okay, web examples, that's better. Request body, cool. And we'll just return a false out of that one. And I mean, ultimately we want to dispatch to something that's in route pairs. We may have a, well, can we generate a match expression? Because we'd have to do that. With a syntax, we could do it. Yeah, definitely with a syntax, we could do it. But let's not get derailed. So all we really need right now, and let's go to tests, routes.test.scm. I don't really know, like what format do they expect the test to be in? I'm going to take this other documentation or tutorial that Jeremy wrote, because it does have an example of a test file. Let's just scroll on down. Tests/harness. So this is the built-in Surfy64 test framework. Module define. Why? Is this just a set test log to file false? What does that do? Like override a value inside the scope of the module? Oops, what's it called? Module define. Locally bind name to value in a module. If name was already locally bound in the module, define locally, value stored in the existing variable will be updated. Okay. Otherwise, a new variable will be added to the module via module add. Cool. So you're sort of like reaching into the module and setting this value. That's crazy. Why do you have to do that? Guile Surfy 64. Uh-huh. So it sounds like it logs by default. Okay, whatever. I'm not that concerned about it. Let's just get rid of that for now. So begin test suite, test equal. So to make this testable, we need to have some lower level functions for checking a specific route. It's kind of lame though to have to expose internal functions for the purpose of unit testing to make unit testing easier. So maybe we should just not do that. I need to look at the spec again because test equal, what does that do? Test equal, test name, expected test expression. Okay, so this is the expression and this value is expected at the end. Test error. Assert, okay. Test passes if the result is true. If the result is false, a test failure is reported. So that's a more general assertion. All right. Might need like a special wrapper for test assert. And let's see. Test equal for comparing other values. Yeah, I think that this is going to end up being, I mean, I guess we could say which one it resolves to. Like if there's a function for resolving a route handler. But is that something you want happening dynamically, or do you want to happen by a match expression? Well, let's just keep it simple to start with. How about that? Not great. I suppose, I mean, these would just call a handler and the handler would do something. So, in fact, we can just make this a little bit simpler. I call that routes. And our ugly list syntax for now, yeah. Jeez. Lispy is not helping. Starting with a single route and see if a URI path matches or not. Yeah, I'm just trying to not expose more from the public API than necessary for testing purposes. I suppose. I mean, if I hide all of the lower level gunk inside of like a, you know, submodule, I could reach into that submodule and pull those out and not have it in the root module. But I can just re-export in the root module. But that's sort of outside the scope. Let's not go too crazy. Ah, did I delete that? No, it's here. Okay. Okay. So we got that now. Just something simple to start with. And the idea is that routes should return a lambda that can then take in the information from a request and invoke the desired handler, which is, you know, this is kind of synchronous, which is not great if you're doing more high scale stuff, but this is just really simple stuff right now. And then when it returns the value back from the handler through the route function, then the test equals should be able to check it. So test routes. Now, how do we fake a request? Is there a way to make a request object? I suppose I could make one, right? There's a separate section on requests and responses, I think. Whoops. Build request. Construct an HTTP request object. Okay, cool. URI. Cool. So we can fake one. Nice. All right, so define fake request URL, let's call it. I guess it's URI technically. And then method. That's all we really need to see. In fact, let's change the order of those, and then we can call build request URI, and that's method. I don't want to have to type that keyword every time. That's why I'm doing it this way. All right, so define module. Did they? Let's see if Jeremy did this. Yeah, test harness. Okay. Guile routes tests. Maybe that's what I should do, right? I don't know. Ah, cool. So we got the Surfy there. Dummy is not our thing. We're going to pull in Guile routes. We're also going to pull in web request, I think is the name of the module. Web request. Okay, so web request. Obviously, we have not run any of this code yet, so this may crash and burn as soon as we do it, but that's fine. Test routes, fake request, foo, and the... All right, cool. So that's a test. That's a very basic test. Test in test suite. Let's change test suite to route tests. I don't know. And those can go away now. So we got a test file now. Let's go and try out that Hall scan. All right, so now it found under the test directory scheme file routes.test. Maybe I should just rename that because it's gonna trip things up. Whoops. Okay. Let's try it one more time. It was doing a dry run. So, all right. So routes, cool. Let's do -x so it will update that hall.scm file. And now it should be there. All right. I wonder. Okay. So we still need autotools to build everything. So now that's kind of what we want to do. We want to try to build it. So Guix environment, then we got to run the make stuff. Are we still in the shell environment here? I think we are. autotools, Bible thump, yeah. See ya, Ashraz. Okay. Let me copy this incantation again. I don't know if it's gonna work. So it wants a configure file. I don't know why I didn't make one to start with. Is there like a bootstrap step that needs to happen? Because the hacking instructions do not tell me the right thing. I think auto reconf is supposed to do it. Hall dist -x. And where's the dist file? I don't see it. Okay, Hall dist without execute. So this is making an updated geeks.scm file. I see. And I believe I have to delete the previous one. All right. So it made the new one. don't really see anything different though. But maybe I have to get out of the shell and go back in. You know, it's possible also that I shouldn't do -D. All right. I do need -D because it's going to try to build the project otherwise. It's not actually putting any files down, which is pretty weird. Let's check the repo. Or actually, maybe we should check the info buffer. All right. Let's go back up to top. Quick start. Hall scan. Hall dist. Oh, dist? Oh, you have to do that. So that's missing from somewhere, or maybe I just skipped that. Hall dist -x. Now that should make the... That's what I was doing though, isn't it? All right, hold on a second. Okay, still not there. Hall dist help. Help, help. Am I supposed to tell it to do the tarball? Hall Guix. Something seems out of date because I don't think there's a Hall Guix command, is there? No. I think the docs are out of date. .041. Let's see. Which file would that be in? Configure AC, maybe? Yeah, 041. Okay, so it's we're using the most up-to-date version, but the docs don't seem to be following it closely. Hey, Jeff and Alex. Oh, man. Hall build -x. Bad, bad, bad for me. Hey, Fade. Clearly, I'm not following the steps correctly. But I'm not being told certain things also. All right, so we got some new files that are being added, which are going to be useful for this whole building process, which is good. Cool, so now if I were to go back and try to run that same incantation as before, if I can find it, dun, 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 dun. Where is it? Right here. Cool, now it's building stuff. The test suite failed, that's fine, because it doesn't work yet. But it did actually try to run the test, which is good. Cool. Okay, so it does something. And we have a bunch of stuff in here now, even like some compiled module output files. I wonder which of this stuff does not need to be checked in. I think like some of the auto config stuff maybe doesn't need to be checked in. I'm not sure. Dave would probably know better on some of that. Obviously the pre-inst env is needed. Kate says, what do you need autotools for at this point? Many Guile projects use autotools for build. Don't ask me why. I don't personally like that. I think it's annoying, but that's just the way it always has been. And as far as I know, there isn't really an alternative. The only thing I've seen, there's a Guile build system in Guix, which I don't think it uses autotools at all. But most projects are using autotools. So, okay, let me step a couple steps back. I think the reason why a lot of Guile projects use autotools is because there are C components inside the code. So maybe you have some of the scheme, well, some of the procedures are from C, especially if you're doing bindings to like C libraries and whatnot. So that makes sense why you would need to run like GNU make to build the C components for your Guile modules. But I think that that's not really needed for a pure scheme library, but I think people use it anyway. Oh, yes, Jeff, a good idea. Jeff says, maybe check the git ignore file. Yeah, good. So it has all the stuff in there we need. Let's check Magit and see, yeah, let's create a repository. Let's check Magit and see what files it would let me try to put in. These all look reasonable. Build aux, I think that is something that we want because it's got some collateral that's needed for build scripts. Makefile am, okay. But the makefile.in is not in there. What else is not in there? Config.status, config, yeah, a lot of stuff. So Dave says autotools with a modern dev interface would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice. I would prefer just like a scheme-based project configuration tool without all the complicated underlying stuff. Okay. But nobody wants to rewrite CMake effectively. All right, so we did see that the project built, and we have what we need now for local development. So what if getting ready for distribution, let's see. Regenerate the Guix file. Dave says, if you need to use FFI, AutoConf's package config integration is very handy. Yeah, that would be pretty nice. Trying to see how we can get an actual Guix package out of this. Oh, is that the only thing? Okay, let's go to the info file. Subcommands. Distribution system. It can generate Guix recipes for local development, for distribution, and for contributing your project to Guix itself. Okay, type. Either local, git, or tarball. The only difference between the three is the source section of the Guix recipe. Yeah, okay, makes sense. Oh, okay, gotcha. So the git option is probably to say the source comes from the git repo. What I want is local. Is local not the default? Ah, okay. The recipe prints will be of type local. Well, let's double check that because I don't think I saw that. No, it's looking at a tarball. So that's not what we want. We want that to be a local. So type switch. So hall dist x type local. You have to remove the Guix file. Can you force it? Hall dist help. I want you to just override it, dude. Don't make me delete it every time. Okay, let's check that geeks.scm again. That's not what I expected to see. What about git? So rm geeks.scm and hall dist x type git. Okay, that's interesting. So it just spit out a template, or sorry, well, it spit out a package definition and didn't write the file out. Fine. My prompt is a little bit busted at the moment. Okay. Path to tarball here. So I don't know why it's pulling up a tarball path whenever it does the quote-unquote local approach. That's pretty weird. Let's just get rid of the type. Weird. By local, I would assume that it would just have like the local source path in it. Getting ready for distribution, use Hall build X. I mean, I think we need to use Hall build X at the beginning because it never built without doing that. Remove cruft, Hall clean. I'm just curious what that does. All right, that's a dry run. Oh, keeping. Okay, good. Clean-X. Now let's see what's in the folder. Less stuff. Yeah, so it took a lot of the build stuff out of there. Seems like you would want to keep some of that though. My source code still seems to be there, which is good. Regenerate. There's -F. Okay, so apparently there is a -F. It's just not documented. Regenerate the Guix file, regenerate the build infrastructure, and then use the auto reconf. So Hall build X, and then I can do the auto reconf magic. All right, so that's not too bad. But I do want to know like what I'm supposed to do to get a Guix package that is meant for, I guess the Git one is the one that's meant for contribution to Guix. Because you're supposed to put the Git repo path in the package definition. Dist type Git. Basically just spits that out and you just put in your URL and your commit hash for whatever your package is. And if you have dependencies, it should insert them in here. So this is a buildable package, I think. So what if I do -xf? F is not a valid option. Okay, so it writes it out, but I'm guessing you're supposed to just pipe that to a file. So I'll say Guix package.scm. Okay. Okay. That's cool. How do I make a tarball? Build system. That doesn't do that though. Hall dist X does not generate build infrastructure. It just generates to the Guix package. Maybe I'm missing something from Guix environment-L. Load file. Basically the same thing as Guix shell -f looks like. All right, so final command, the build command auto generates the files that you will want to include before distributing your project. So before distributing your project, not for development of your project, but just for distributing. Several approaches you can take. Minimalist, make Hall a dependency of your project so that you only need to have the bare minimum number of files in your project. When you roll a new release tarball, you can run the following command sequence. Dist-X and then build the tarball, but I don't think that, unless the assumption is you've already run Hall build before this, and then you've checked in those files. Also, compromise, run Hall dist and commit the resulting files to your repository. I think Hall dist and Hall build have been split because Hall dist does not do the other stuff anymore, based on what I'm seeing. Yeah, Hall dist in its dry run just tells you what local Guix.scm file it's going to create. It doesn't create anything else. That's pretty weird. All right. So let me just write down what I think one has to do. Let's see, steps to use Hall for a project. So Hall init, author your name. Whoa, error keys are bound to something. Project name, cd projects, cd project name, Hall dist x Guix shell. Well, you have to have Hall already. Hall build x Guix shell -f Guix.scm -- and then the auto reconf stuff. This thing. Let's try that. So Hall init. I don't care about the author. Hall test -x. All right, cd Hall test. Hall dist. Hold on a second. It already has a Guix.scm, cat Guix.scm. So we don't really need to run that first Hall dist. You need Hall build. Okay, let's try this first. Let's run this command and see if it works. I don't think it's gonna work. There's no way it could work. All right, so invalid input. Oh, I need the D there. Okay, cool. So yes, you need Hall build X first, and then you can run that Guix shell, and then it will run everything. And make check does nothing. Okay, cool. So it built the project and ran the non-existent tests for that project. So that is the minimal set of steps you need to create a new project with Hall, if I'm not mistaken. And then generate the necessary build collateral, and then run Guix shell to have all the build dependencies available, and then build everything. I don't think you need auto reconf every time. I think you need auto reconf and configure only when you change things. So in practice, just Guix shell df Guix.scm and make check. Yep. Also, the fact that each of the autotools tools have a separate doc and everything is obscure, yeah, it's not easy to follow. I mean, like even writing makefiles just by itself is complicated at times. Okay, so creating a project, initializing project build. Yeah, initializing the project build. Or let's call it that. And I think what it's doing is it should be running a pre-inst environment to execute that test file with the package path. So if I were to make that code work, in fact, let's go do that now. Inside of Guile routes.scm, for each of the route pairs, I need to find the right one and execute as handler. So we can just use a really simple string comparison for now instead of having to do the matching, the real matching. So let loop remaining pairs, route pairs. This is the lamest possible way to do this, but it's the way that I'm going to do it for right now. So can you do let star with a named let? Kind of don't want to do it that way. Are you going to take out the hall dist x from the show notes if it isn't needed? Oh, yes, good point. Thanks, Jeff, for that. So hall dist is not needed to initialize the project build because the geeks.sem file is already there. Hall dist, I don't know when hall dist is really needed. I don't know what it's doing, unless something's not working correctly. Based on the name hall dist or hall distribution, you would think that it would do the build stuff also. Okay. So the sort of funky way I set up the route specification is annoying. I don't really want to do a nested let, but I don't think I have a choice. So let's do a let star. That's not a pair. That's not pairs. Routes. Route list. Let's call it that. Okay. So route would be the car of the current remaining list. And then we need to check. So if the, what's the way to get the method? Okay, request method. I wonder how that looks. Okay, is that a symbol or a string? I wonder. We'll find out real fast. If equal, request method, request with the car of the route. Then we want to execute the handler, so we will say catter route. Is that right? No. We also want to do an and here. Request URI, is that it? Yeah, request URI, request. That's going to be the catter of the route. And then if that passes, then we want to use the cadder of the route because we're getting the third item. And we're going to pass in what the request and request body. So we're effectively just passing through the parameters here. So request body. And otherwise, we're going to continue until the list is nil. So we also need to do a check up here. So when remaining? No. I think that I can do this recursively without doing that. I think you could use a match instead, right? Am I using geyser? I'm not using anything right now. I'm just writing code, and I've just got this nice buffer of autosave errors popping up in my face the entire time. I need to fix my autosave config. Yeah, if I use match, where is that? Use module ice9 match. Is that right? Guile ice9 match. Pattern matching. It's kind of nice because you can just decompose a list. In fact, I probably should just do that, shouldn't I? Instead of doing this catter crap, I could just use match to decompose the route. Let me just check this real quick. Is there like a let match or something? Or match itself just does that? Oh, match let. Okay, cool. All right, let's try this then. So match. I always forget the syntax. Oh, the input object is the route list. And then I want to say route rest, I think, because I'm trying to just decompose the head and tails. Oh. I see, okay. I think that should work, right? And in that case, if there is, then continue. And do this thing right there. See you, Kates. All right, so the false path would be, if this doesn't match, I just need to keep going through the list. Where's that one? Okay, right there. So if the method and the URI match, and then execute the handler. Otherwise, you want to call the lambda itself. Yeah, I did. Thanks, Jeff. We don't have a named lambda here. So we kind of do need a let loop in that case. Even with the match. That's fine. Let loop. All right, we can still do the match on it. Route rest, okay. And then we'll say loop rest. So that's the false case. If it doesn't match, we're going to look at the next item. And this is not going to be route list. It's going to be remaining. This could be routes. I don't know. Whatever. Okay, route rest. Yep. Route. All right, cool. So let's get rid of this guy. And get rid of that. Because this should be a successful loop. Oh no, we need the null case. Or the empty case, let's say. So here I can say, is it just an empty set of parens? Yeah, empty list, okay. So if it's just that, return false, I think. Okay, that should work. You want to see if this makes the test pass? I don't know, let's see. Guile routes. Sure doesn't. Doesn't really give us much info either, does it? Testsuite.log. Let's check that out. Expected value foo, actual value false. Okay. Bad request, bad URI. Why is that bad? Oh, because it doesn't have a host. I think I need to tell it not to validate. That's a good point though, because routes. Where's the test file? Wow, what is all this stuff? We need to have an actual domain on these, I think. Because if I make a fake request, in fact, I could just tack that on to the beginning of any test route. So fake request. I want to do a string append. Get out of here. And then URI. Okay, let's try that again. Oh, let's take all the other autoconf stuff off the front of that too, because that's kind of idiotic what I'm doing. All right, cool. That was much faster this time. So fail 1. Can you just give me the verbose output so I can see it? Still a bad URI. Can I tell it not to validate that because I'm getting bored? Oh, that says validate headers. What don't you like? Bad URI? What's bad about it? How old is this? 12 years ago. Yeah, this is not an up-to-date 2012. Not up-to-date Guile source. Okay. We need a REPL. So Guile, use modules, web request, build request. What's bad about it? Do I need to be like V? Oops. Let's see. Is there any other information that I'm missing in the library? Okay, web URI. Oh, maybe I need to make a URI. Because I'm given it a string, but I think it wants an actual URI object. String to URI, cool. That makes sense. Let's try that real quick. That also means I need that module. Use modules web URI. And now I can say string to URI. Boom, okay. That's the answer. So let's go in here and put in web URI as well. And then our fake request, I'll put this here, string to URI. All right. Now we should be good to go. We can run our test again. And still failed, that's fine. Go back to our test log. Wrong number of arguments. Maybe it's the procedure that I'm invoking. Guile routes 5 to request body. Is it because I'm not returning values? I think that wants... Whoa, where am I? So I need the examples. So, yeah, okay. Let's try to do that instead. Every handler has to do something extra. And that's fine. Then the question becomes, how do I test this kind of without major headache? I'm only using those two right now, so let's just skip the other one. Okay, foo handler, bar handler, both of those returning values now. I think that's why it's upset. Let's just double check that. Run number of arguments to A. Guile routes 5 to, let's go back to Guile routes, line 5. Well, I wonder if I can return it like a 404 somehow. Status, okay. Okay. Still, it's not the problem. So routes, am I calling routes with the right stuff? Routes to SCM, routes, test routes. Oh. Yeah, I'm only sending it the request. I'm not giving it the body. So the body is just a blank string. So that's my fault. Okay. Unbound variable. Equal? Or which one is the unbound variable after all? Oh, is it? Yes. Gotta remember what language I'm using here. Request method. Okay. Gotcha. And am I using URI in here anywhere? No. Okay. Status 404. Oh, okay. So we're making some progress. And the reason why it's not working is because I'm not pulling the route path off the URI. So I need to pull the path. So URI path. Let's go to this part right here. Request URI. I need to pull URI path. Okay. Next. All right. So I should probably just write that out to see what it is. So if I say begin display, well, no, let's use format. Format. And we'll pull the path off. Will it actually write it out? Will it be in the log? Man. So it doesn't take the format output, it seems. It must do false here. Sometimes I forget. Oh, okay, so that did get printed. So the other part did not. Let me make sure I did this right. This must be T. Print line debugging is the best kind of debugging. We don't even make it here, it seems. Am I doing match wrong, maybe? List of n elements with a dot, n or more, okay. Okay, that should be right. Oh, that doesn't even matter because we're not even at the... Let me just put this way up here. Unbound variable. Oh, no wonder. I should actually look at the error messages that are being printed. Okay, still got a failure. Sorry, folks. I know this is tedious and boring. Okay, URI / foo. Expected value foo. Okay, so what did I do wrong here? So in routes, I have /foo. as the expected route. Hold on. What's going on there? Oh, 404. Okay. I should also write out the current. Let's do that again. Get what? How is that the catter? So if you have routes, which is this list here, it's a list of lists. The car of that list. Oh, yes. My bad. Okay, cool. Wrong number of args. Procedure foo handler. Foo handler needs to take a request and request body. Now we should be much closer. Cool. Actual value content type text plain, and that's because I'm not extracting the values correctly. I think there's like a let values, but also values. You can use match for. Can you use match for values? Probably not. Guile let values. I feel like there's a let values that that's in a module somewhere, like a weird module. Guile multiple values. Binding multiple values. Let's look at that one. Not that. Anybody in the chat remember a better way to extract values? Maybe there's an example in the here. Let's see, values. Syntax. Oh, returning and accepting multiple values. Well, where is it? Call with values. I don't really want to use that. Fade asks, is values a Guile built in that, okay, define values, let values. Is let values built in, or do you have to pull in a module for that? Surfy 11. All right. Okay, so test routes. The test routes. Oh, okay, that's not a function. That's a actual routes. Test equal. I also need to extract the result. So get out of here. Let values, and that's going to be headers body, because I really just want the body out of it. And the next one, okay, so that's like another nesting level. Would be this test routes call. Okay, kind of lame. This needs to be a better test, or a better test strategy eventually. Okay, cool. So now the test pass. Cool. We have a very stupid basic route handler function with a test on it. So now that we're about 20 minutes away from the end of the stream, I think the best thing to do would be to try and do the second part of this example where we, at least locally, consume this library through a Guix package definition and run it in a Guix shell. So I think what I need to do is build the tarball. Make dist, okay. So if I were to go run make dist, then it should have created a tarball. Where is that tarball? Guile routes 0.1, cool. Now if I were to back out of this Guix shell that I'm in and say Guix shell f Guix.scm, it should actually build it. Well, in theory it should build it. Am I building a web app in Guile? I mean, not really. I'm just sort of using this as an example. Ultimately, I would like to, oops, that's not where I meant to go with that. Ultimately, I would like to build a web app in Guile. Okay. No such file or directory Guile routes char.gz. It's there, isn't it? It's right there. And I think it... okay. Maybe... Raleigh says, Guile on a backend that would be interesting. I've built some backend services in Common Lisp and MIT Scheme, but never Guile. Yeah, Guile would be pretty nice for it. I mean, it has good built-in APIs for it. I haven't actually deployed anything with it yet. I've just done very minimal work. Don't want the autotools part. Okay, let's see. We got anything in Jeremy's documentation? Cleaning the project. Okay, building the info. Okay, that doesn't really help. Let's go back to the info file and see if we see anything. Go to the top. Let's do that. All right. The first case, it points to a local tarball. Second, it points to a Git repository. Third case, it points to a remote tarball template. Okay. So local tarball is what we want, but apparently it's not building because for some reason it can't find it, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Unless that source string where is the documentation? Guix reference manual. I know it's really stupid that I keep going to search for this stuff rather than just loading up an info. Don't at me, bro. Okay, so entirely on one page, that's better. Defining packages, cool. Source. Is an origin object. I think that source is wrong. File name. File name under which the source code should be saved? No. It's like a local file thing, right? URL represented the string. Ah, hold on. Can also be any other file-like object, such as local file, which is denotes the file. Okay, so I think we need to use local file there, which means that what it generates isn't exactly right. I need to look at the error again. So it says no such file directory, but I think that I don't know if it pulls it into the store. Let's see. GNU store Guile routes. Okay, it seems to have done it actually. So why did it not resolve it then? Because it followed the path and put that file in the store. So it means it at least resolved the local path of the tar.gz, but that's really weird. Yes, in the above package definition. Okay, that's fine. We have GX? No. I don't know if this is going to make any difference. Let's see. Yes, it did make a difference. That's weird. Okay, so we're in a Guix shell now, and the Guile route should be there. If we were to look at, let's see, echo Guile load path. Okay, ls. Whoa. Okay, let's just do cd, or yeah, cd Guile load path. In fact, let's do a push D on that. Oh, come on, push D. No, that's not right. Current system profile, no, that's not right. We're not in the shell, are we? There we are. My prompt is totally busted. Share Guile site 3.0. Okay, cool. So Guile routes is there. The module is there. We should be able to load it up. If I were to go into Guile, use modules, Guile routes, no code for module. That's not cool. I see the file there. Does it have anything in it? Yeah. But that's not in the load path though, which is kind of weird. It's got Guile as an input. You would think that it would set up the load path as it came in. It's the GNU build system. Should I set it as the Guix Guile build system? Exclusively of scheme code. Don't even have a make file, let alone configure script. Yeah, that would be ideal. I don't know if there's any extra logic that needs to happen for GNU packages, Guile XYZ, let's say. Let's see, what do we got here? Libraries. Guile build system. I don't see anything else like trying to add itself to the load path. Or maybe I do. Oh, this is for wrapping a program. Let's see. I'm trying to think why this wouldn't be working. Oh. Maybe. I guess it's sort of a moot point. Oh, this time it worked. Let's take a look at that real quick. So if I exit and I run the Guix SCM without that, then it does not add the load path. So apparently the Guile package does some magic that will add the profiles Guile load path to the environment. So if you don't put the Guile package in, let me drop that in the show notes because that's a little bit obscure. To use your library as a Guix package. So Guix shell -f Guix.scm Guile. So I'll do that one more time. Exit. Echo Guix, sorry, Guile load path. All right, cool. Now, if I go into Guile, I hope this works. Use modules, Guile routes. Yep, routes. And our procedure is there. Cool. All right, so end to end, that works. It's just not as it's documented. And I think there's a bug that causes the Guix.scm file to be written out incorrectly for the local case. Whoops. Okay. Maybe a bit more. Is this like 0.1? Yeah. So let's quickly try this out. I want to just throw this in a little script. Let's go back to our folder, scripts, test server.scm. Let's go to our routes test. I want to steal this routes definition. I'm going to drop it in here. And I want to go back to the examples, web examples, right? And run a server. Okay, so we got our handler. That's what we're going to do. Web server, use modules, web server. And then stop that. No, Copilot, let's turn that off. So I want to run server, and then we're just going to use the function that's returned, or the procedure that's returned by routes to set that up. I'll also put in Guile routes. We also need the handler functions, which I can take from the test. I already just grabbed these two right here. Drop them in there. And go back and delete this part. Okay, so that's a script that I could run from here. And what does, okay, 8080. Cool, let's just give that a shot. I'm kind of curious what's gonna happen. So we're still in our Guix shell. I should be able to say Guile, well, what is the one for executing a script? L, okay. Guile-L. Scripts, test server. Cool, the server should be running. I can go to localhost 8080 foo. And probably the text is coming back through, where is the get foo, oh, 500? Internal server error, it must have had an exception or something. Any other information about that? Oh, okay, cool. Exception in the thing. Oh, URL favicon.ico. Wrong type argument in position 1, expecting pair get. Let me get that. Let's see, URI foo check foo. Favicon check foo. And Guile routes. Cooter, wrong type argument position 1, expecting get. Okay, so back in Guile routes.scm. There's no explicit cooter. Okay, must be one of these. Ah. Can't do. That's wrong. I mean, technically, I'm trying to get the route off of the list of routes. The first route and then the rest. Shouldn't that be already a single item? Like routes is the list, and I'm trying to get the list off the front of that. And with the way that match works, it should just decompose that into individual elements. All right, let's go back to our tests because I think that something's wrong here. We want to do the df. Okay, so we're back to our failure. We're almost done here, folks. So we're checking the car is get. This seems really strange. Whoa. Car route. So even, what if I just do this? Because something's really wrong here. Crafting is never done. That's right, Benoit. You're right about that. So it's like the whole list. How is that possible? Because I'm supposed to be decomposing this. Did I put this in here wrong? Match. Shouldn't be. Oh, wait a second. Hold up, hold up. What I did was not smart. Okay, so routes, the way that the routes function is defined is wrong. So let's do this. We're not going to do the rest argument here. We're going to just have it be a list that it takes explicitly. Okay, cool. That was the problem. Now I can get the rest of this crap out. And I can take this out as well. Get this back on the same level and then run it again. Cool. And then now I can do the other form where I go into the REPL, Guile-F, scripts, test server.sem, ooh, -L. Okay, and then, did it do the right thing? Because I didn't see it actually compile anything. Did you? Oh, I think I need to update the... Come on now. I missed a step. I need to make dist first. So let me put that in the show notes too. Org. Okay. So Guix shell df geeks.scm make dist make the tarball. Let's call that library. Okay, so we got the updated tarball now. I can run the other Guix shell. Whoa, hold up, that's wrong. Something's not getting updated. Is there an error here? No. Okay, so if there's no error, that means the tarball got generated. I see the tarball there. Now I should be able to run a Guix shell for Guile-F scripts test server. I keep doing -F. I don't think this is going to work, but yeah, still 500 because it didn't. Oh, what? Wrong type argument position 1. See you, Jeff. Where's it looking for a cutter? $13, right? Catter route. Anyway, we're out of time a little bit, but I think we've sort of seen the end-to-end process here. I will check in the code for this into a repo so you can go take a look at it. Let me just write down a link here. Check out the let's see, codeberg.org/davidwill/guile routes. That doesn't exist. I'm gonna go create it right now, and then I'll check this code in just so you can see sort of what got created by Guile Hall. I mean, obviously this is not fully working right now, but it's good enough to give it a shot. Moon says, are you gonna revisit Nixt? It became on FlatHub, by the way. Yeah, Nixt has come along a bit since the last time. I tried it again. I tried Nixt 3, and it's improved. I had some other problem with it, but I can't remember because it was like a month and a half ago. So I'll have to go and take a look at it again. Benoit says, welcome back. Thank you. I'm happy to be back. It's been a while since I've streamed, so it feels good to get back into it. All right, so like I said, I will drop the code into this repository. Just go back to the show notes and you can pick that up. And yeah, thanks a lot for sticking with me through this to sort of give Guile Hall a shot and try everything out. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Definitely was helpful for me because I might end up using this in the future. But give it a shot and let me know what you think in the comments, or let me know what you think by telling me on the Fediverse or Matrix. And until the next time, I hope you all have a great weekend and happy hacking. We'll see you.